What's up, world? This is Raul again, coming back with Say It Loud. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. It's been such an awesome journey to just continue to see the transformation of this process, to be able to work and connect and meet new people all around the world. It's been really an honor that, aside from the community that I've been integrated with and working with, that I'm tapping into these other communities, and in those communities are even more brilliant people who are really creating some magic out into the world in their own way. And Say It Loud is an opportunity for us to come together with these stories and to hear not necessarily what people are doing, but the story behind it, how they arrived here, how did they take their experiences in their life, from their struggles to their triumphs to whatever it is that might have been, and utilized it to really support them and to get into the journey that they're on now. So today I had Victoria on, who is an artist. She works with different artists. She works innovatively works with healing to get people really aligned to the body and a number of different things. I'm probably not doing a great job at completely explaining what you do, but Victoria, thank you so much for jumping on the call and joining me today.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Yeah, awesome. So, okay, so what is it that you do? How is it that you work with people? Or what's your title? What do you work with?
Well, I completely understand why it can be a little confusing. I'm like your typical person who's doing 10 things at once, but I have a company called Victoria X Rose, where I do a lot of creative direction, mostly in the music industry, because that's where my career has been. But recently, I haven't fully launched this, but my life's mission, or I believe my life's mission, is to help creatives understand that you do not need to be miserable to be creative, because that is such a core belief of ours. It's the age-old tale of, art is suffering. And listen, the universe, the God of your own understanding, is gonna throw pain and heartache and lessons at you, no matter what. So you don't need to be manipulating your minds into bringing in more pain. And that is just what I've seen with all of my artist friends and clients and my personal story. So yeah, that's my mission, to help creatives kind of clear their head and get out of that root belief.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. What did you just say before? The God that you what?
The God of your own understanding.
God of your own understanding. I never heard it put that way. I really like that, actually.
Yeah, we all have so many, at the root of every religion, every God, it's kind of the same thing. So
yes, well, I no offense to anyone who might be listening, but like it's opinion, right? Like that, I completely subscribe to that. In my journey, in my spirituality, or even just tapping into different religions, because those are not necessarily the same thing. I feel that there's a common denominator that we're all speaking about, and we all tap into when we are our best self, when we are healing and progressive and unifying and connecting and giving. We all tap into a kind of a very similar story. So I really love that. And I love the fact that you're saying that creativity does not necessarily need to be coming from hardship. It doesn't need to be coming from struggle. I personally thrived off of that. I personally had all my pain and my demons, and I dedicated it to music, to dance, to sports, to all my creative filters, to really go and operate from there. And I think I've wondered that same question, like, do I need hardship? What if I was completely absent of hardship? Would I still be creating with the level of empathy that I'm doing now? I love that you're working with people already in that conversation. So what does that look like? How is it that you work with artists in that process?
Yeah, so it's very different for everyone, of course, but how we kind of start off is, so this root belief that we need to struggle kind of tears off to many different things. So let me give you an example. A lot of artists believe that they need to be broke. You're never going to make money off of something that you love doing. So that's been one that also comes out of this whole you need to be miserable belief. So we tackle that first. We tackle all these little things and we're like, okay, why is this belief serving you? Because everything that we do and everything that we tell ourselves is because it somehow benefits us. So back to that broke story, I can just tell you my personal story with that. I sat down and got real and I was like, okay, what do I think about super rich people? And it was always so negative. It was like, oh, they're spoiled or whatever. Like, I had this belief that money didn't grow on trees, that you constantly had to be working very hard, which is true to some extent, in order to make any money. And you're not a true artist unless you're struggling. So we kind of tap into those little situations, get to the root of why we think that. Why we're broke is because we don't believe we should be making money because we want to be an artist.
Right.
So all these different complications. So we get into that, right? And then we'll start doing little habits that end up turning into something that you don't have to think about anymore. So now you've transcended that experience. So it's long and it's hard, and facing what you believe is it's hard and it can be really embarrassing. It was embarrassing for me even just by myself writing in my journal, like, oh, I believe this. I can't believe I believe this. But it's so important in order to transcend all of that.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think there's so many ways that we could systemize how is it that we work with people, and what is it we're doing in order to even be profitable. You know, there's that idea, like you said, the starving artist. Like, do I need to subscribe to be the starving artist? There's also, I see a deep-rooted conversation with people that it's also a way out. Like, they don't see how they could overcome this obstacle, or money becomes a scary thing. So they utilize the story that's commonly known as a starving artist as kind of a scapegoat to not confront their conversations or not confront their pain and stuff that they're up to, as if I'm subscribing to this type of lifestyle because I've heard or I see that the default ways this is how to be, when that's not necessarily always the case. You know, there's ways that we could be profitable yet be about impact. This is something I've even struggled with. I'm preaching to the choir right now. I struggle with this as well, as in, like, where is my balance between my creativity and working with the people that need support and creating something profitable of demand, and having that dance of, you know, being aligned with the heart and then being the head of the business and, you know, that kind of work. So how is it that you stumbled upon all this stuff? What was your journey like that you had these experiences that now led you to working with artists? Where did that come from?
Yeah, I mean, I started in the music industry at a very young age. I was in high school, although I always lied about my age to get jobs. So many people don't know I was in high school. But yeah, so I started very young. I was always surrounded by musicians and creatives, and was one myself. So I saw a lot of my friends and clients manipulating their lives, and they were always in pain, and they always had the same problem over and over in some form. So I, like everybody else, brushed it off like, well, they're an artist. That's just how artists are. No good art comes from being happy. So I had that belief. And then I kind of hit my personal rock bottom. Like many of us, that is the beginning of your rising, right? So right out of college, I moved to New York. Everyone thought I was crazy. I was definitely crazy. I had no money. I lived in this studio apartment in a bit of a shady neighborhood in Brooklyn with a roommate who was Christine, who you know. And we actually shared a bed because we only had one bed. We shared it from the outside looking in. People were like, what are you doing? For me, I had never been happier. Like, I was living my dream. Oh my goodness, just like going back to that thought, like, I could be struggling, but every day I was waking up in New York City. So everything's worth it. So my career in the music industry started to take off. I got like a full-time, awesome job working with artists, being super creative. And then one day I was in the subway and I was underground, right, waiting for the subway to get to the station. And I started to go numb. My whole body started to go numb. And I got really dizzy. And the subway came, and I was like, whatever this is, it's just gonna pass, it's gonna be fine. And I got on the subway, and I started seeing black spots, and was gone. So I was alone, unconscious on the subway. So fast forward to the next day, I just called like a doctor friend, and they asked me all these questions, and I was like, obviously something's wrong with me. Did I just have a heart attack? What happened? But they were like, no, this is a classic case of a panic attack. And I was like, shut up. Like, I can name 100,000 times I've been way more stressed than I am right now. Like, I am ecstatic right now. You cannot tell me this is a panic attack. It ended up happening all the time. I would be in meetings, very important meetings. I would be walking home alone and pass out. Like, this just happened all the time. So I got really nervous, and I couldn't really trust myself. So obviously I sucked it up and went to the doctor, and we did find a lot of physical health problems. One of them being that I had an autoimmune disease. So my body was literally attacking itself, which is kind of what I felt like anyways. Me just passing out randomly, like, that's what it felt like anyways. So it kind of gave me a push into looking into myself a bit, and that sucked. So I started to go to sleep therapy and psychiatrists and things like this, and they diagnosed me with a laundry list of things. But one of them, which is really what got me to turn my beliefs around, was that I had a pretty brutal eating disorder. And I had no idea. And I know what everybody thinks when I say this is, how could you not know? Like, it's pretty obvious, right? But I had manipulated myself so intensely since I was little, to believing that what I was doing wasn't wrong, to believing I just didn't feel good, or like I didn't want to eat, or I didn't have the money to eat, or any like things like this. I was so deep into it that I couldn't see what I was doing to myself. So that freaked me out. So I truly felt like I didn't have control over my mind because of this eating disorder. I didn't have control over my body because of my panic attacks, and because my body was literally attacking itself with this autoimmune disease. That was a hard pill for me to swallow. But for some reason, I picked up a book that I will forever praise, which is The 4 Agreements. I read it, and that was when I started to understand that, life is all about our perceptions. Like, life is basically just all of our limiting beliefs. So that was when I started to study the brain, study energy, which is like Reiki. I started to study the gut, which is our second brain, healing foods and breath work and happiness and yoga and the metaphysical texts like A Course in Miracles, Kundalini. Anyways, I just really got deep into it. And during this process, and this took years, during this process, I was looking around me at all of my incredible creative artist friends that were in that position that I was in. They didn't know they were manipulating themselves. They didn't know that a lot of the pain that they were bringing in was because of this. This sounds really harsh, but was mostly because of themselves. Not all of it, of course, but a lot of it was. So that's when I started having these conversations with other people. Once I really started to understand it, because it's a hard thing to kind of sit down with someone and be like, well, it's not that bad, or, you have to be very careful because it's such a soft topic for people. That's really what got me into doing this and being like, there's a better way to live. And honestly, I guess the moral of the story is that my creativity has never been better since all of that. I'm happier. Yesterday I was miserable that is just life. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and say like you are gonna be happy all the time if you look at your limiting beliefs. You won't, and you don't want to. Creatives don't want to, so that should be a sigh of relief for us. But I can, now that I did the work, look at my emotions and I can really dissect it so much better than I could before, because I didn't understand it as well. After that, that is really when I started to get incredibly creative, music videos, doing art, whatever. Like, it really helped.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing. There's several things that come up for me in that thought. I've read the Four Agreements. I've read like a lot of these books. Even having a background, I'm not even sure if I forgot to speak to you about this. I've been a life coach for quite a bit now, and so when I work with people, it's a lot of that. You know, one of the terminologies that they used to use is your occurring world. The way the world occurs for you is not necessarily fact. It's just how I'm experiencing it. And my experience is based on my interpretation. And my interpretation is based on my filters. And my filters are based on my experiences. So just because this is kind of our view on reality, or we have a lot of evidence how we might be right, there's so many ways how we might be wrong about our interpretation or perspective, especially if it's not serving us. And there's truth for both of them, right? There's truth for all of it, that it serves us and it doesn't serve us. But to interact with the ways, or to be able to have the ability to interact with your mind and shift your perspective, not just a default setting, but to inquire, where is that coming from? How am I looking at this? How else can I look at this? It opens a world of opportunity. You know, when I did this work, I think it definitely elevated my consciousness and my ability to look, and my level of freedom within my own reality. And same, you know, like we could still create and manifest from that space, you know. And I love it because it doesn't just apply to artists. I love that you're working with artists, and I think artists really need to, because those are the people that make the world colorful in their type of way, from music to art to dance. It's really, it makes it an artistic piece, you know. And I love that you're working with that. But for anyone, even the people who are listening right now, for anyone that finds themselves kind of caught in their reality and always feeling like a strive and a drive, I feel like I'm speaking to myself sometimes here too. There's a shift that that could happen if we start entertaining these ways and working with people like you to find and be able to mirror back, like, how is it that I'm looking at this? How else can I view this? And how can I start creating that freedom within myself in that journey? Definitely.
It 100% relates to everybody. The only reason that I focus on artists, I think, is, well, I mean, that's what I know because that's what my career has been, but also because, I mean, we can all say this. If you're a music fan, we can all say music really helped me through a lot of my hard times. So I kind of had this, like, I don't know, I kind of felt like I needed to pay it forward to them. And it's like, they're helping us so much. Who's helping them?
Yeah.
You know? So.
That is so true. I mean, even thinking about it, who else helping them? When you think about musicians and artists, and I mean, we talk about, or we think about the fame and the glory and all that stuff, but that in itself is something struggle to navigate. You're also a commodity. You're also, you know, like you are a dollar sign to people still. And where is that health to be able to preserve that energy from any scale of artists, right? From the people who are traveling the world doing their work to the people who are impacting their community. It's kind of like we can enjoy the fruits of their labor, but we're not there for necessarily the process, the conditions to make sure the tree is sound, you know? Mm-hmm. So I love that you work specifically with artists, because those are some of the people who are creating so much and giving so much, and at the same time only receive with whatever they can get. So to really compliment the journey, I think that's great. So for the people who are listening at home, again, Say It Loud is storytelling where we get to hear about what your story and the journey and what it came down to. And also to pay it forward to the people who are listening now. It could be towards aspiring artists, to current people in their practice of artistry, whatever that might be for them. What would be your message to people right now, especially in these times where we have to redefine or even if in the redefine we have settled with the idea of this is how things need to be and I have to accept my burden, what would be your message to people like that?
Yeah, so I heard this, so I'm going to steal this. I heard it from Glennon Doyle. She was talking about this whole like COVID-19 experience, and she was saying, okay, we're all home. We don't have all these distractions. And she compared it to a snow globe. So you shake the snow globe and all of the little snow, like these are all your distractions. And in the middle, there's this dragon. And so now all the snow is settling. You're stuck at home. You're only with your thoughts. And it's scary. And now you're starting to see things. So that's what worries me about people being alone and at home. So to those people, I think it's an incredible opportunity for you to look at yourself. And one way you can do that, which is something that I've done a lot, I do it every morning, but just free writing. It is something that has helped me so much to see, because my brain is going 1,000 miles an hour all the time, especially people with anxiety. It's like, you know? So sitting down, forcing yourself to write, just to free write. It could literally be, you could sit down and be like, I don't want to be writing right now. I have so much to do. But for me, I always love like looking at what is in my brain. And I think it really helps people. So that's one tool I think for those people that they should be doing to help them take a look at themselves. And that's like the easiest thing you can do. It could be like 5 minutes. And then for people who that doesn't apply to, but they want to help artists, I'm just gonna do a shameless plug to Music Cares. Because like we were saying, who are the people, like when there's a huge disaster, we put on a concert, you know, we like do a fundraiser of like a festival, and it's always musicians that are helping. So if you have the means, like donating to Music Cares to help them through this time would be like incredible.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people depend on a livelihood to be in public and to be around people and really being able to perform or have shows or make sales and that kind of stuff. And if you can't do it digitally, I know a couple of artist people here in New York who have gone together and do the Zoom performances where it's just like, come and get together and, you know, we'll go ahead and play music and people are just vibing. But also, you know, again, like you said, if we're music lovers, if we appreciate it, if we can support it, if we have the means to, by all means, you know, to connect that, I think that would be really great. Awesome. So Victoria, where can people find you? Where can people follow your work, see your artistry, or if they're an artist, they might want to work with you? How can people get in touch with you?
Sure. So you can email me directly if you want to work with me. I am taking one-on-one right now. So victoria@victoriaxrose.com is my email. But you can also go to my website, which will soon have workshops and group coaching sessions, which I'm so excited about. So yeah, you could go on my website for updates on that, or my Instagram, which some variation of Victoria X Rose. Yeah, so all announcements will be on there.
Okay, awesome. So for now, we'll plug in this information. We'll plug in your Instagram, your email, and all that stuff. So for the people who are listening, for the artists who want to get involved, for the admirers or the people who appreciate music, who want to find out how to support, and, you know, even just getting more exposure into the music industry, coming together with like-minded people, healing together and creating together. Please follow Victoria, her work that she's doing, what stuff she's creating out into the world. And yeah, Victoria, thank you so much for joining me and to tell me your story. Really, it's incredible that having these different things of maybe even like feeling like an attack on emotionally, mentally, physically, to be able to find that healing and still find your truth in creativity, and to now give that to people as they're finding their truth and their creativity and what it needs to take from them or what it doesn't need to take from them. It's really awesome. So thank you for coming and sharing your story.
Thank you for having me. I love talking to you.
It's really, I love the good vibes, and all of you people that, you know, Christine has introduced me to. It's just a phenomenal group of people. Like, you guys are amazing. I really love it. All right, guys. So for everyone tuning in, make sure to come back. We're going to be releasing more episodes of Say It Loud, where we get to hear about more incredible people doing incredible things for the world around them, and hear their story, hear what it took, hear where it came from. I have some really exciting guests coming up soon, so just make sure to stay tuned. Follow, subscribe, check Victoria out, and we will be coming back to you guys very soon with so much more fun. Much love.